Government's wage bill had increased in just 2 months by about 5 billion shillings, from 75 billion in December 2024 to 80 billion in January 2025. According to the fiscal environment we're operating in, this could prove unsustainable in a while. Don't you think that probably the government, turning the government into a huge employment bureau, sort of, could be detrimental to the Kenyan worker?
And it will be. The government cannot run away from being the lead employer and actually the huge employer. In economies that have industrialized, of course the private sector does lead because it will have a huge number of workers. We are not an industrialized economy, and we are struggling to be a middle-income country. Our GDP is growing tremendously, and therefore reciprocal to the growth of the GDP is a growth in the employment sector also, in terms of numbers of workers, in terms of what they are doing, and in terms of the services they are rendering to government. The growth in the government it is common knowledge that President William Ruto has employed additional 76,000 teachers, those and under permanent and pensionable terms, and those that means is going to attract a huge, significant spending on the payroll. The question is, do we need these teachers? Yes. Why? There's a huge number of children in the classrooms in our public schools, and the government is committed to ensuring that the quality of delivery of education within the public institutions and public service is delivered. So it is a must-spend situation, and therefore this must-spend circumstances will always force government to put money on the payroll, and therefore we'll have expenditures shooting.
The president himself has expressed concern about the sustainability of the same.
Yes, that concern has been expressed for mines to be applied, so that then when you're employing, you employ in sectors where it is mandatory. And of course, you must employ the security officers, you must employ teachers for our schools, you must employ medical personnel for our medical institutions. That's a fact for sure. And the president giving a warning is for purposes of management. But that does not mean government is going to stop from continuing with those employment. And as a country, we must manage our economy. If you look at the new finance bill, for example, there are no new taxes.
We are here to see the full document. These are just
there are no new taxes
from...
No, they are not snippets, and there are no new taxes introduced. There's massive spending cuts. There is crackdown on tax cheats. There's worker and private sector relief. There's digital economy boost, legal and administrative reforms, strategic aviation incentives. There are so many. This is no longer a secret. If you've not gotten
we'll have to wait for the real
you as a media, in fact, you should be having them at your fingertips. So these are some of the economic intervention measures that government is responding to the feelings of Kenyans, while at the same time, we are trying to ensure that, the government is trying to ensure that the economy grows exponentially at the rate that it is required, that the investors don't shy away from investing. They must also understand our legal and policy regimes and obligations of new policies, deductions and whatnot, and we still continue working in an environment where private businesses can coexist with the policies, taxation, tax regimes, and workers also, and Kenyans who are in their numbers, particularly Kenya being a destination, a very good destination for investors because of highly skilled workforce. It is an area that needs to be looked at. So what we are talking about here is that to ensure that
when the government felt it could not sustain such a big workforce, they sought to shed off quite huge numbers. Right now, we're just seeing the government absorbing more and more. Do you see a risk there, Eric, that the government may soon be unable to sustain this?
I think if you are referring to what happened in 1990s during the structural adjustment programs, actually, we are now paying the price for that, because we reached a point where we found ourselves as a country with an aging public service. Majority of civil servants were people who are actually approaching 60s. I know, for example, there's a time we were having an interview with the PS for Labor in a talk show like this, and we realized that if you went to that ministry, about top 20 positions, all of them, people who are occupying those positions were almost retiring at the same time. So when they retired, you will find we found ourselves in a very big mess, because you have got top 20 positions that are vacant. Nobody can make decisions during that particular period. So I think we are just trying to, by the government absorbing, we are trying to correct some of to clear the mess that we found ourselves as a country with an aging civil service. And then number two, the government must continue to employ, because the reason why we are paying these taxes, because we are expecting services from the government. So if we continue paying taxes but not getting services, you go to an office and you are told that the occupant of that office is a retiree, has retired, and therefore you cannot get a service. Obviously, as a Kenyan, you'll feel disappointed and you'll start agitating for change. So the government must always employ, so that if you walk into any public office, you get someone there to serve you. That is how you will get value for the money you are paying in taxes. So the government, as an issue in any economy, the government is always number one employer. The problem we have in Kenya here is that, are we doing competitive recruitment, or we are just trying to reward our friends?